there are a whole lot of moms in the world that don't take time like this for themselves. And it can be difficult depending on the stage that you're in. I believe everybody here is a special needs parent, so that adds a whole nother layer to momming, which in the first place is a pretty full-time job and can be very difficult. And I know we were talking while we were eating about, how much easier it is for our husbands or the fathers of our children to just go. My husband's a hunter, and I pretty much don't see him for 2 to 3 months at a time every fall. And he doesn't think twice about going off for, 4 or 5 days to hunting camp and leaving me home with the kids. But for some reason, when that's reversed, I feel guilty. I don't even know if he puts it on me, but we feel guilty when we're not taking care of our children all the time. And I think sometimes that we put our own health and wellness on the back burner because we feel guilty for taking care of ourselves. And in fact, I know that that is a big, big issue for a lot of moms. And so I'm here today to talk to you about why taking care of yourself is so important and some ways that maybe you can start incorporating that into your regular routine. And I know that a lot of you are probably thinking right now, I won't have time. She's gonna give me these things to do and I'm gonna have to say I don't have time to do that. So I just wanna let you know that you do have the time, and it's about prioritizing those things, because somehow we find time. Who here finds time to clean their toilets? Who finds time to drive their kids to therapies or soccer practice right, exactly. And this is how I think of this for myself. I have 4 sons and I have a 5th boy that lives with me. So there are 6 men in my house, including my husband, and I have 4 toilets. And if I can find time to clean up after 6 males, I can certainly find time to do something for myself once in a while, right? So that's just, that's just, so going back to, so my kids are a little older. My oldest right now is 21. I have twins that just turned 19, and I have my youngest is turning 10 next week. So I've been in all the stages, and I was at a point when my children were very small that my health and wellness was not on my radar. My mother was dying of cancer. I was having my first baby, and then when he was 2, I was having twins. And the idea of even remotely thinking about my health was not there. And that's why my health started to really fall apart. I put on weight. I didn't feel well ever. I was diagnosed with celiac disease. And at the time I started having panic and anxiety attacks, which I didn't understand. They seemed to come out of the blue to me. I had no idea why that was happening. I basically walked around in a fog of just feeling crappy all the time. I was tired. I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and I felt twice that age. Like I just felt I was starting to have joint pain, and I was, constantly feeling bloated. I was fatigued. I was depressed. I had just everything seemed to be falling apart, and I wasn't connecting that they were all coming from the same root cause. And I think sometimes we don't realize, we were just talking about, there's a root cause for everything, and it can manifest so differently in everyone. So learning to pay attention to your own body, pay attention to your health, and the things that you're doing that might be exacerbating a problem and you don't even realize it, or something that you might be doing that would help if you could make it more of a regular routine for yourself. So that's kind of what I want to talk to. So, I know the reality. I know the reality of trying to find that time and feeling exhausted and feeling, low energy and feeling just constantly frazzled or overwhelmed. It can be a lonely thing. As much as the world is so connected right now, it can be really lonely to be a mom sometimes, especially when we have special needs kids. And my son's disabilities are pretty invisible. He has fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, and we don't know what else. We don't know his full genetics, so we will maybe never know. and it's really hard because of the crossover of behaviors and symptoms to figure out exactly. So it can be a lonely thing sometimes to try to figure out, and when someone sees your child and they don't appear to have something going on, and then these behaviors happen, and I'm over it now. Like, I used to worry, oh my gosh, people are gonna think I'm a bad mom. I don't worry about that anymore, but I'm guessing that everybody's felt that way at some point. So I get that we feel that way and that we're dealing with that on a day-to-day basis, and that can be really hard. But I want to talk to you about some of the underlying things that we could be doing that would help us feel better and help us. You can't pour from an empty cup. Has anybody ever heard that? You just can't pour from an empty. Okay, so what that means is if you're not taking care of you, you cannot do the best for the people around you. That's the reason why when you're on an airplane, they tell you to put on your oxygen mask first, because if you are suffocating, you cannot think clearly enough, you can't react properly to help the people around you. So your cup needs to be full. Moms have a lot going on. We have families to take care of, houses to take care of. A lot of us work outside the home on top of that. So we keep a lot of balls in the air. And we can't do that if we're not taking care of our physical being. And there's some underlying things that can be causing some of the overwhelm, some of the feeling of chaos, or some of the depression or anxiety that we're feeling. Things like inadequate nutrition. I think I'm a fitness and nutrition coach. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I should probably let you know that. So I know a little bit about this, and nutrition is a bigger factor than we most of the time realize that it is. Anybody here have dietary restrictions in their household? Okay, so you understand, especially if it's for your child, you know that a certain food, like my son, I know corn, food dyes, things like that will set him off. I can see an immediate reaction in his behavior. We don't always recognize, though, if it's not an outward behavior or a physical, like if I eat gluten, I would be on the floor sick, very, very sick. But sometimes our bodies react in a little bit different way that we don't connect, that what we're putting in is what's manifesting itself for us. So when you're eating foods that don't promote energy, you're going to feel less energetic. 80% of your immune system is housed in your gut. And gut health is something that it's still an emerging field. It's something that people don't concentrate too much on and don't even fully know yet how much that can affect things. But I know for myself, when I spent several years depressed and having panic attacks, and they tried medications, and those didn't seem to work, and they had side effects that I didn't like anyway. And then after I started really taking care of myself and eating clean, it went away. I was having panic attacks on airplanes, and to the point where I would have to take medication for a week before a flight because I wouldn't be able to sleep because I was so terrified of getting on an airplane. It had started what seemed to be out of the blue, and it was debilitating. And then one day I realized we were leaving for a trip in a few days, and I hadn't remembered that I was supposed to have this prescription filled so I could fly on this plane. I was sleeping fine. I felt great. I actually love flying again now, and it was all through nutrition and healing my gut, because when we think of, a lot of times when we think of those feel-good hormones in our brain, and that you may have heard people talk about chemical imbalances in the brain, things like that. That's really not how it works. Serotonin, those feel-good chemicals are produced here in this immune system in your gut. And then the way they make you feel good is that they rotate up to your brain when you do things like exercise. It moves all those things up where they belong. So creating those in the first place has a lot to do with nutrition, and then how your body uses them has a lot to do with your movement. So that is an inadequate nutrition is one underlying factor to the overwhelm, the difficulties that we face on a day-to-day basis. Another thing is lack of downtime. So coming to something like this, if there's, just because there's not an event every weekend doesn't mean you don't find some way to take some downtime for yourself. Whether that means you take a long bath and lock the door and put in earplugs so you don't hear the kids, or you take yourself to a movie, or you just get together with a girlfriend and, you know, have coffee. Having downtime for ourselves to reconnect with the fact that we are individual human beings, but besides being a mom or a wife or a whatever your career is, you are a person, an individual with individual needs, and reminding yourself of that by doing something you enjoy is really important for your overall health. Another thing is lack of sleep, and I know that that can be a tough one to control if you have, like my youngest doesn't sleep much, ever, somehow. I don't know how he functions most of the time on almost no sleep. I don't get it. But he does, but that can mean my own sleep is disrupted. But I will say that when you are taking care of your body, when you're eating correctly, when you are exercising more, you actually don't need as much sleep as you think you need, and you will feel more refreshed. So I used to be a person who needed 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night. If I didn't get that much, I was actually angry at the world, like somebody disrupted my sleep. And it was one of the parameters we set when we started fostering. I wouldn't take anybody beyond under 6 months, because if they weren't old enough to sleep through the night, I was not having it. I was done getting up in the middle of the night with kids. I had done that already, and I didn't want to do it anymore. But then I began exercising regularly, just a few minutes a day. Actually, there have been studies, and if you work out just 20 minutes a day, you will improve your quality of your sleep. So even if you only can get 6 hours, it's going to be so much more restful, so much more rejuvenating. So moving your body just 20 minutes a day is all it takes to help your sleep get better. And I know a lot of times when I talk to people, when I'm coaching fitness, and we talk about fitting fitness into their daily routine, and they will say, I can't get up early to work out. I just can't. I need my sleep. And I get that. But it's amazing, once you actually start doing it, you don't need as much sleep. I woke up this morning 30 minutes before my alarm, and my husband says, oh, you slept in. You got almost 7 hours. And he was joking because he rolled over and went back to sleep. But I wake up. I don't need that alarm. Snooze buttons don't exist in my world anymore. I don't need that anymore. And it's really because I am making sure that I'm moving my body. I usually work out about 30 minutes to 50 minutes a day. It's not an all day thing for me. It is a priority in my life. I'm actually competing right now, or getting ready to compete, my first competition. So I do work out every single day, but you don't even need to do that. If you could take that 20 minutes a day and break it into doing like 30 minutes 5 days a week, it would do the same thing. It's the amount of minutes per week. Another thing that can contribute to that feeling of overwhelm, that feeling of anxiety, depression, is lack of connection. And that's why being here today is awesome, and getting to sit and chat with other moms who get it on some level, what our daily lives are like. Like I said earlier, we can feel lonely sometimes. So finding communities, in-person communities are fabulous. And every time you can, I highly suggest doing something like this. So thank you so much, Jamie, for even conceptualizing this, because it's amazing. There's Facebook groups for literally everything on earth. If you have a child with a specific disorder or specific special need, I guarantee you there's groups out there for that. There's just groups for moms over 40, which I would fall into. Like, there's a group for everything. Find your group, find your people. Even the Facebook page for Bountiful Loaves could be a place that you can interact and get to know people. There's another group that I'm in that is, I spoke at an event in Tucson last month, so I got to know some of those moms. And so we created a little online community for the moms that had met. It was a weekend retreat. I highly recommend going away for a weekend. Figure out how to do that at some point.
We're doing one in September.
Good, there you go. Yes, I am going to that. Yes, I am. And so my son was having a particularly difficult day, and 2 days ago, and it was it was pretty challenging. So when I took him to Taekwondo and finally got him in the building, which was not easy, I got back out in my car and I just went live in that group. And I said, you guys, I need support right now because I'm gonna lose it. I need to talk to somebody. I know you guys know because we had been on the retreat, we had talked about our lives, we had talked about various relationships, and the relationship I chose to focus on that weekend was my relationship with my son. And so I went in there and just spent a few minutes saying, this is what I'm dealing with, I'm not sure what to do. And just the support of people who are in Utah and Colorado, they're all over the place, but saying, you got this, mama, we love you, you're doing great, giving little suggestions, just that, 5 minutes was all it took for me to go, okay, this day can be turned around. I'm not gonna wallow in. I'm a real believer in it's not a bad day, it's a bad 5 minutes. And keeping that in perspective, because we can have a whole lot of bad 5 minutes, but if we are putting it in the perspective of, okay, it's only 5 minutes, breathe, recover, do what you gotta do though. You gotta take care of you. You have to have something, whether that's, for me it's exercise, go down in the basement, and Core de Force is my workout of choice when I need to get to vent. It's an MMA workout, so I get to punch and kick and feel like I'm bad mama, you know what I mean? And it really helps in those moments to get that out. So finding what that is for you. Maybe it's praying, maybe it's meditating, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's calling a friend, maybe it's journaling. Has anybody ever done black journaling? Anybody ever? Okay, black journaling is one of the best things. So black journaling is you are writing down your feelings. You're just kind of stream of consciousness writing, whatever it is you're feeling about whatever the situation is that you're in that is upsetting to you at that time. Whether you had a fight with your spouse, whether your child is, acting violently towards you, or you just got that call from the school that they, did something they weren't supposed to do, or, something went bad at work. You're struggling with, dealing with something else in life, an ill relative, whatever. Black journaling is where you just stream of conscious, write how you feel, do not censor yourself. Everything. If you have to write, I hate my life right now, I hate my husband right now, I'm angry at God right now, whatever you have to write it down and then destroy it. Burn it, throw it out, rip it to shreds, get rid of it. It might sound a little woo-woo, but it works. Like getting it out, releasing that, where you're not yelling it at someone else, you're not saying things you will regret later to someone else, you're just getting it out of your body, releases you to figure out a solution, to figure out how to feel better about it. And then you can go back in and journal. I like writing letters to God and then writing back to myself as if God was writing to me. It's amazing how the answers come to you when you go into that perspective, but you've got to get rid of the negative first. So black journaling is a really, really great way to do that. Just get it out, and then it releases it and it lets you breathe and think more clearly. So that's another good way to take care of yourself. So who here has ever heard of the Proverbs 31 wife? Anybody? Okay, so Proverbs 31 is a chapter in the Bible that talks about an ideal wife. And growing up, I always thought that meant that in order to be this ideal wife, you had to take care of everybody around you, put yourself on the back burner, be selfless, be a martyr pretty much for everybody else in your life. Make sure everyone's needs around you are met, and that makes you a good wife. And your children will rise up and call you blessed. And that's one of the things that is said in that verse. And I used to kind of be bothered by that verse because I thought, how come the mom has to do all this and the only way to be a good mom is to neglect myself, to put myself on the back burner, to make sure everybody else is okay even when I'm not? Has anybody ever felt that way in here, that you have to, in order to be good and to be considered a good mom or a good wife, that I can't put myself, I can't think of my own needs, I have to put them first. And of course, as a mom, of course we do put our children's, we have to be the one to feed them. Obviously, babies can't fend for themselves. So of course, there is some of that. But there's a couple verses in that chapter that I think got glossed over somehow for me growing up and anytime I've ever heard anybody preach this chapter. And so reading through it myself was when I figured out there's a few things in there that we're neglecting to pay attention to. And one of them is verse 17 that says, she girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. The Proverbs 31 wife is exercising. She's taking care of herself. She's building up her strength. So in the Bible, we're hearing she's taking care of herself because God knows we can't pour from an empty cup. We can't take care of everybody else around us if we're not taking care of ourselves. So it's actually, that's a part that I had never noticed until maybe about a year and a half ago. And I was like, and I was already doing it. I've already been, exercising and taking care of myself. But I'm like, it actually tells me to do that. There's actually a verse in there that says, hey, take care of yourself. There's another verse in there, verse 22. She makes tapestry for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. So she's not afraid to get her hair done, to put on clothes that make her feel good about herself, to spend a little bit of the household income making herself feel good and looking her best. So does that mean you have to fit some world idea of what looking good is? No, it means, do you feel good in your skin? Do you feel good about the way you look? It's okay. And my mother passed away at the age of 52 from ovarian cancer. And this is part of the reason that I began this journey that I'm on to take care of myself and to help other moms learn to take care of themselves. It became a driving factor in my life. She died way too young, and it was unfair. She was my age. I'm 48 years old. That's how old she was when she was diagnosed. My first son was just being born. So she was just becoming a grandmother for the first time. She survived almost 5 years, but she went through a lot: chemotherapy, surgeries, all that. And her life was cut way too short. And for a long time I thought, why? Why did that happen? Why would God do that to somebody so wonderful who had no risk factors for this illness? And it was hard, but it also helped me to change the way I was as a mother, because my mom would never spend money on herself, ever. I remember when I was 16, taking her to the mall, because I finally had a car. It was a really crappy little car, but I could afford it. It was like $400. And I took her and I said, we're getting you an outfit today. And she's like, I can't do that. All the money always went to the kids. Any resources in our family went to her kids. And I said, Mom, you deserve to get something for yourself. And I remember that she cried, and like, just to buy herself an outfit. And it wasn't like in a fancy, expensive store, but just to get something new for herself that she liked just because she liked it was not something she had ever done. And after she died at 52, I realized that there's a whole lot she never got to do that she would have enjoyed doing. And it made me sad that there was a lot that she missed out on that she would never experience. And because she was always concerned about making sure we had everything that we needed. And your kids aren't gonna remember the money you spent. Obviously, we need to keep them fed and clothed first and foremost, right? We need a roof over our heads. But after that, if a child is loved, if they're getting quality time spent with their family, if they're getting hugs from you every day and they're getting to some playtime, they don't need you to spend all your money on them in order to say that they had a good childhood. There was one other point I wanted to make on that, and I gotta figure out what it was. Oh, okay. So, and the other part of that is this. Watching the way my mother cared for us, and I don't want this to come across in any way negative, because my mother was the best human being I've ever known. She was my best friend. She was an amazing woman, and a fantastic wife, mother, friend, everything, and I miss her every day. But what I learned from watching that was, if I'm going to be a good mom, I have to give up everything about myself. I can't take care of myself. I can't spend any time or resources on me. I need to give it all to my kids. And when I couldn't quite live up to that, I felt like I wasn't a good mom for a long time. I felt like, why, if I'm supposed to be this sacrificing person who never thinks of myself, why do I struggle so hard? Why do I feel like, overwhelmed? Why do I feel like I need to take time for myself and I need to take care of myself? And what I have since figured out is that's because I'm not supposed to not take care of myself. I'm not supposed to ignore my own needs. I am supposed to take care of myself because I can't pour from an empty cup, but also because my kids are watching me. Every single day they are seeing what I am doing, and that is going to affect how they are as adults. If they believe that in order to be a parent, you have to give up all your own free time, ignore every need you have, and just, laser focus on just what they need, what is that going to mean for them in their adult life? What kind of, and for my sons, I need them to, because I have all sons, I need them to know that when their wife comes to them someday and says, I want to go out for the weekend with the girls and have a weekend retreat, that they are going to say, go, I got this. I want my sons to grow up to understand that moms get to have some time to themselves and get to take care of themselves too. I think that's really, really important. So the other piece is realizing it's not selfish. Self-care is not selfish. Self-care is necessary. Taking care of you are the hub of your family. Whether we like it or not, mom's mood sets the mood in the house. I think probably most people would agree with that. If mom wakes up grumpy, like the whole day seems to go, and that's when you start to go, I'm having a bad, this day's terrible, everybody's falling. It makes a difference. Mom's mood makes a difference. And so finding a way to find that happiness for yourself, because faking it is not the answer either. Your kids can see through that. Plastering on a fake smile is not, they're gonna know. they're just gonna know. So, and I'm not saying that, you're not gonna have those moments that are difficult, but what I am saying is that you recognizing your worth, that you are a worthy person, that God created you for a reason, and that He created you as a worthy individual, that you are worth taking care of, that you are worth putting on that priority list. And when I said earlier about finding time, it's in the toilets and all, that whole thing. Like, it doesn't, I'm not saying you have to take hours a day, but I am saying there is probably a way to revamp your routine slightly, to carve out a couple hours on the weekend to food prep healthy things so that during the week, and this is something I do weekly, I food prep so that it's easier for me to grab something healthy all week and I don't end up resorting to less healthy choices. And I'll tell you this, my sons, my older ones, are now doing the same thing. They are preparing their meals and taking them to work. They're reading a food label. Like, they're paying attention to what goes into their bodies at 19, 20 years old. They make fun of me all the time. Like, they tease me about like the way I eat, because I'm the only vegan in the house. So they will tease me about that a little bit, but they can tease me all they want because they see the actions actually happening. It's okay. They're supposed to think I'm a dork, right? They're 19-year-old guys. They're not supposed to think their mom's cool. That's okay. Because they are learning from it. They are what your kids are watching you all the time. So let them see that taking care of yourself is an important part of life. Okay. So that's really, does anybody have any questions for me? That's really what I wanted to talk to you about today, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them on fitness or nutrition or making that time for yourself at all. Anybody? No?
What kind of meals do you prep?
Okay, so when I prep meals, what I do is I do a lot of fruits, veggies, whole grains, and lean proteins. So I will do, like, I'll get chicken breast for the meat eaters in my house. and I will pound them all thin, and I usually cut them into 3 pieces each, because chicken breasts are, a serving of chicken is supposed to be like the size of your palm. It's 3 ounces. It's not a whole giant chicken breast. So I'll cut it into thirds, and I have an organic no salt seasoning that I sprinkle on it, bake it in the oven, or sometimes I'll do it in the air fryer. And then I'll have that whole batch of chicken breasts. I will do up a big batch of brown rice. I will bake off 6 or 8 sweet potatoes. I make sure I wash and cut up broccoli, bell peppers, cauliflower, all the veggies. I will make sure are washed and prepped and ready to go. If I buy fruit, it's washed and ready. Pineapple, I cut it up, because a whole pineapple will sit on my countertop till it rots. But if I cut it up, they'll eat it, right? So all the fruits and veggies are prepped. I will make a batch. I usually do like a bean and mushroom chili. I'll do a couple of crock pot meals. I might do some soups and things like that. So that when it comes to mealtime, when I come home from work and everybody's hungry right now, I can pull out a couple of those chicken breasts. For myself, I'll do tofu or tempeh or black bean. I love black beans as my protein source. And I'll pull out some of those cut up bell peppers and some of that broccoli, and I can throw together a stir fry. And I can do, like, I'll do the chicken in one pan so people can pick and choose. So if you have picky eaters in the house, this is a great way to do it, because then they can decide which things are gonna go on their plate, but you know that all the choices are healthy. I will do the same thing with like tacos or fajitas, so you can take those same basic ingredients and make them into many different types of meals, because then you have the rice. I'll do like lettuce wraps for me, and I might do whole grain tortillas for the other members of the household. And then we can do some ground turkey, some ground venison, because again, my husband hunts. Mine will be a bean burrito. And we have those veggies we can saute because they're already cut and cleaned. It takes 10 minutes to get dinner on the table. Other things that I do overnight oats. You just take, I mix mine. So I'll do half rolled oats and half steel cut oats. I will add a little maple syrup, natural maple syrup for sweetening. I will put in there a lot of times like some natural peanut butter or almond butter, and then fruit. I buy the bags of frozen berries. Frozen fruits and vegetables are really good for you. They're picked and frozen at the peak of freshness, so it's not like it's less healthy than in the produce department, like a fresh one necessarily. And it tends to be less expensive. And I'll take some of those frozen berries and toss them in the oats. I add my almond milk and put it in the fridge, and I make a big, like a mixing bowl full every week. And I put that in the fridge, and every morning people can scoop out a little bit of that, and they might have to, loosen it back up with a little more almond milk, and there's a really, really healthy breakfast. I'll also do batches of like almond flour muffins, so they have some kind of dessert. And those are usually super simple ingredients. I mash a banana. I don't even use a sweetener in there. It's sweetened with the bananas. I'll toss in some frozen blueberries maybe, and I'll do like almond flour muffins. So, and for my animal product eaters in the house, I will do an egg bake as well that I can either do them in muffins. These are so easy. You whisk up your eggs or egg whites, toss in some of those veggies that you've washed, and cook them in egg muffin tins, and like 2 egg muffins as a breakfast serving. So it's a quick grab and go. So those are the sorts of things that I will prep when I'm doing food prep on the weekend, so that we have a variety of things. And the cut up veggies are also really good for lunches. I tend to do salads for lunch, and I'll top mine with black beans. If you're not eating beans, incorporate them. They're one of the best foods that you can eat. They're so good for your body, unless you have a FODMAP situation going on. The darker and more vibrant the color of a food, the more antioxidant rich it is, the healthier it is. So black beans are the healthiest bean, and lucky for me, they're my favorite one too. So, and that's the other thing. Eating healthy does not have to be expensive. You guys, a bag of brown rice, a can of beans, and grab whatever vegetable is on sale because it's in season. It's the healthiest thing you can eat, and you spent like $1 per person, maybe. And especially with all the great vegetables and fruits and things we're getting now from Jamie and Daryl, like there's so many ways to put those together. The soups that she made today were from those, and that's a super easy thing to do, to throw some veggies in a pot with some vegetable stock. I use vegetable stock. And then toss it in your blender to make a creamy soup out of it. And it's a really good thing for kids too, because then they don't see the chunks of veggies. They don't know that it's all in there. So, yeah.
I made a pumpkin black bean soup and it's really good.
Ooh, yes.
I have a recipe.
Good, awesome. Share it in the group.
Really healthy because I'm going to go back on it. I did exactly what the food you did. And, but no meat and beers. I'm not a big meat person.
Mm-hmm. That's and you know, and that's and just to make everybody aware about protein. Just real quick. I don't want to go too far into this, but we have a real fear of not getting enough protein in this country. Like that's a big deal. It's the big thing on all the news now. I'm just going to tell you, it is mathematically impossible to not get enough protein if you're eating enough calories to live on. Okay, you can't. There's nobody has a protein deficiency. Nowhere. There's no such thing. We have fiber deficiencies. We have vitamin and mineral deficiencies, right? There's no protein, so don't panic. I love when you go to a restaurant and I order a salad and they say, "Did you want a protein with that?" And I'm like, "You mean meat?" Because there's protein in the veggies. They actually do have protein. It's just kind of comical to me. Yes, there's a lot. I mean, so many. Eating a variety of vegetables is just a great way to go. And I bet you do. You're the soup lady. I love it. I hope you're going to be sharing these recipes with us. I heard you love artichoke. That's artichoke lady. Yes, I do too. They were in our meal that we had last night, actually.
I just need motivation, number one, and number two, I have a Pepsi addiction.
Okay.
And I need to quit, but I also have like issues with like my esophagus and spasms and swallowing and stuff, but I want to get back on track.
So I will tell you, again, I do coach fitness and nutrition. I do have a free Facebook group. And so that is for anybody who is looking for just that. Obviously there are people that pay me for more than that. But if you're just looking for kind of a community, I do share a lot of recipes and stuff in there. I'm more than happy to share that with you guys today. It's a free group. There's no obligation to anything, but it gives you that little bit of community if you're looking for that. I give fitness tips in there. And like I said, I share a lot of recipes and menu ideas.
You're right about, number one is food. And everyone thinks exercise is the main thing, but it's not. It's totally false because it's number one is your food that you're eating. Number two, when I worked with a nutritionist, she said she wouldn't let me exercise for a month because she wanted my nutrition
to focus on that. Yeah.
Focus on that first, and then she said only 10 minutes of the treadmill. I'm like, 10 minutes. What's that going to do? But it's so true because I lost 30 pounds.
Good for you. That's awesome.
All I did was exactly what she said.
Yeah.
Pepsi.
That's a big one. Well, the sugar, yeah. 80%, if it's weight loss that we're talking about, 80% of weight loss is in your nutrition. You're never gonna outrun your fork, ever.
You can't exercise.
You can't. But there's a lot of other benefits to exercise. There's some very extremely important things as far as like your mental state, your energy levels, better sleep, better circulation. There's a lot of good, healthy benefits to exercise, but you're absolutely right. If you are exercising, if you're going for a walk for 20 minutes and going back home and eating a half-fudge sundae, you're not that you should never eat a treat. That's not what I'm saying. Like right now I'm more restricted because I am competing, but normally I do indulge in some treats. Yeah, and I don't even call them cheat days. I don't like that term because it implies that you're doing something wrong. And I don't like that. I like you to have an indulgence here and there. I like you to enjoy life and enjoy a treat, but don't call it cheating and tell yourself you're cheating on yourself. I just feel like yeah. No, that's okay.
For 6 months straight, this is how I did it. I had no sugar, no carbs, no dairy, and no Pepsi. So I drank a lot of water, which I never drank in my whole life. And every time I made food, I could not use oils or anything without that. So I use, like everyone's like, well, what do you eat? Where's your protein? So I pulled black beans and all these different things that I eat, and I felt good. But then I don't know what happened. I had all these issues with my esophagus. I just said, I'm just drinking Pepsi because I can't deal with this. So my nutrition wanted me to eat like a million meals a day.
Yeah.
And that's hard for me to do.
Yeah.
We take bites of food, like some little bites here and there.
Okay.
Maybe coffee. And that's why I'm getting back on track. But I did smoothies in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That works good. And you can put like these protein, like vegetarian ones,
Yeah.
shakes inside it to give you the extra protein.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a, like, so I coach, I work through Team Beachbody. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that. So I do Team Beachbody. I do other coaching as well. That's not the only thing I do, but I drink Shakeology daily and I love it. It's the best thing I
Then it has all the extra vitamins.
It has a ton, yeah.
Like every vitamin there is.
Yeah, yeah, and there's so many recipes for smoothies out there if you're looking for something like that. But yeah, bear that in mind. 80% of it, if we're talking strictly from weight loss, or if you're looking at something like your doctor's telling you your blood pressure's too high or your blood sugar, you have to get the nutrition first. But exercise has many other benefits as well.
Sorry,
That's
exercise is good. Like she showed me weightlifting.
Yes.
That is the biggest thing. She said when you do the weights, you don't do like 100 pounds, but when you're doing weights, that actually burns more.
It does.
And all day long.
And for women, to combat like osteoporosis and arthritis, weight-bearing exercise is very important, and it keeps your bone strength, because we all know somebody who gets a few years older and breaks a hip and ends up with. You want to be weight-bearing, even if it's 5 pounds. It doesn't have to be tons of weight to have that benefit. So keep that in
But
mind.
you're right about the 20 minutes, because that's really doing that even every day. And 20 minutes is nothing. At work I walk
Yeah,
20,000 steps just at work alone.
yeah. We scroll Facebook for 20 minutes a day. Like it's really a doable amount of time. It really is.
Easy to do. And
Yeah.
if you're doing weights, it's actually burning your stuff all day long.
It does, yes. Weightlifting, once you start to build up muscle, that will burn calories all day. So your metabolism actually revs up for the whole
It was easy. It wasn't even like,
Oh, you're preaching to the choir there. I lift weights every day. I love
and I
it.
want to do more than 20 minutes, but my nutritionist said, no, 20 minutes, that's it, because she was
She wants you to focus on one.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
And I'm glad that you're helping.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I'll make sure that everybody has the info for the Facebook group.
That'd be great.
And if you have any other, thank you so much for your time and attention today. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad all of you took the time for yourself. Thank you. And